Can anyone drop a comment if they can hear me? We are having a lot of technical issues and I just want to see if any of this is coming up. Hello. Okay. After a whole world of issues, I think that the audio is now on. So can somebody confirm on the comments that they can hear me? Is the audio working, please? Can you hear me? Yay! At least one person can hear me. Hello. Okay, so the most dramatic things from this week, aside from having some really dreadful audio issues and streaming issues and all manner of problems, Team Kuribrohs have been out for regionals. The UK contingent travelled down to Exeter on the Saturday. We had myself, Alec and Seb all headed down there, and also my brother tagged along for that one, which was nice to have him around. I ended up finishing in third place, and Alec picked up a fourth place finish at that one, with Seb and my brother just narrowly missing out on the top 8 spots, coming in 9th and 10th from that one. It was a really good fun event. I think it was a brand new store, Imperial Games down in Exeter. So it was really cool that they were able to get up and running for their first regional. They hosted 75 players. Obviously, I was still playing Orcus deck because that's just what I'm into at the moment. Alec was trying out the new Pendulum cards. So he had the Endymions with the spell counters, and Seb, as ever, was playing Sky Strikers with his Mystic Mine. The very similar deck to the one that he took with him to Spanish Nationals the weekend before. And yeah, he saw some success there and thought he'd try it again. And then on the Sunday, we travelled down to Southampton. Again, all playing exactly the same decks that we did on Saturday, with a couple of minor changes perhaps. On the Sunday, Alec finished in the second place, only losing the very last round, and he'd had a really great weekend of it, getting 2 top 4 finishes. And there was also a regional in Ireland. I'm not sure where exactly. I think if Dan is watching, can you send me over the details from that one? We had 3 players there, and 2 more from the team were attending as judges. But I think we picked up a couple of tops. But I'm waiting on Dan for any more information about that one. As for... Okay, so it was Waterford Regional. Getting very slow messages across from Dan, just for the details. James and John both were topped, and I'm pretty sure that there were 2 others judging and 1 other playing, possibly just narrowly missing out on the top. It was a Team Mambo win for that one, so congrats to them. And in the UK, we had Mason Hole took first at the regional in Exeter, and the Brotherhood's Marcus Patel won down in Southampton, and then shared a ride home with us. Salamangre and Orcus were the decks played for the Waterford regional. Oh, sorry, we just got a comment. Am I going to be at the Huddersfield regional this weekend? Yes, that is the plan. I haven't currently got anything by way of travel to get there. I may end up driving up if I can't sort anything. The trains seem horrendous, and I think it's supposed to be starting quite early. So I think it's a 10 a.m. registration, which is a long way to get from Bristol up to Huddersfield. But yeah, if there's any way that I can make it up there, I will do. I've been really happy with how the deck's running recently. So yeah, as I say, I've still been playing the 60 card Orcus deck that I've been on for quite a while now. I'm not sure if there's anything that I'd even want to change on the deck at this point. I feel like it's got fairly strong matchups across the board. If you want, I can go through a little deck profile. It's slightly changed from the one that was put out on the stream last week. A few changes, a little bit of an update to the extra deck, but I'm not even sure that we showed the extra deck last week. So like, if people are interested in seeing that, I can crack on with that in a little bit. But yeah, it felt for me like the flavor of the weekend was really dictated by the prevalence of Mystic Mine. Like, there was very little going on in terms of decks that were like heavily monster reliant. So all of the sort of Sekka's Light Thunder Dragon decks that we saw at the end of last format, it's just completely phased out, and we've now got to a point where everyone has to be playing a deck that can inherently deal with the existence of Mystic Mine, both as a splash in Sky Striker and also as the Mystic Mine burn deck that we've seen all over the place. So I was personally main decking a lot of cards in order to give myself a better chance in that matchup, and siding some more as well. But we really saw a big fall off in any of the Thunder Dragon decks as a whole, and the Orcust variants. I haven't seen any Sekka's Light Orcust recently, possibly also owing to the introduction of Crescendo. Like, there's a lot less attraction to going down the Sekka's Light route with Orcust now. But yeah, a lot of people have been saying that they would kind of like to see the deck, so I will go through that in a little bit. I'll just wait for a few more people to trickle in, because obviously we've had all these issues with trying to get the stream up and going, so I'm not going to launch straight into the deck in case there are other people that want to see it. We have got some cool new stuff to show off this week, actually. So any of you that have been around TKB events for the last 6 months or so may have seen that we've had these little Team Kuribrohs token cards. If you catch me at an event, just flag me down and you can get one of these if you'd like one. But we got the next piece of TKB merchandise has rolled in. We have some cute little dice. I'm not sure how focused they will be on the camera, but yeah, there's little TKB dice. They are very much just prototypes at this point, but we thought we'd try out making some new stuff. I know that Dan's been really hard work lately, trying to put together everything for like team shirts and the like. So there are a lot of things going on in the background. He's really working tirelessly to try and get everything thrown together. And yeah, these dice are just a little tip of the iceberg for everything that he's been working on lately. So we got a selection of colors just to try them out and see what we could get made. And they came out pretty nicely. Couple of issues where we made the designs a little bit too detailed, and so little bits get lost on the front, but if you can see them clearly, I don't know, it's not looking the best focus. They look cooler in person, so if you're playing against me, we can roll some TKB dice to see if I get to go first and do a full combo on you. But yeah, those have been put together and they just arrived this morning, so it was really great to see. Juan Presas, How often did you get Lancia during the weekend? Do you think 60 is still viable with all of the hate the deck gets? I think I only got Lancia'd once or twice this weekend, so in that regard I was pretty lucky. But I did win both of those games, so I don't think that it's like a complete write-off when you do get Lancia'd, because there are still things that you can do. Obviously, it shuts down the main combo that you're trying to pull off, but you still have a chance that you're going to be drawing a Called by the Grave, and even if you don't, I've filled my deck with a lot of ways to just special summon 3 bodies to the board, and that way I can always force my way into a Rusty Bardiche. Obviously not as good if you can't banish to be able to get the second Fogblade, but even just sitting on Rusty and a single Fogblade gives you a reasonable chance to be able to survive until your second turn. And if you can just survive that long, then you can get going again, fight through what your opponent's got, and try and force it through on the second time around. If they have another Lancia, then you're completely done for, but like you can't win them all. Kian is asking, what would you say the best side cards are for this format? Well, question I was just answering a moment ago about Lancia, absolutely one of the top contenders right now. The only argument against it is that it has a lot of limitation in the breadth of the decks that it hits. And one of the things that I've really noticed is that right now there are so many decks that are being played. So I think that I played 14 rounds this weekend, and across those 14 rounds, I probably played at least 7 different decks. And that's not something that we've seen a huge amount of, particularly not that many decks actually seeing success. So I'm not sure that I want to dedicate space in my side deck to cards that will only have one effective matchup. In this case with Lancia, you do get a little bit of marginal value against Thunder Dragon, but like we were discussing before, Thunder Dragon is really falling off with Mystic Mine coming into play. I think, with Mystic Mine, if your main deck can't handle it, the most important cards in your side deck is just going to be things that can deal with that Mystic Mine. So personally, I've gone with a strategy where I need to have cards in my deck to out the Mystic Mine, because I'm just going to lose if I can't deal with it in game 1. You can't always rely on winning every sided game. So, but if you have a deck that has some game against mine in game 1, but still gets hurt by it, then you definitely need to be considered. Sorry, I've just seen a comment about BA going undefeated in a regional. Maybe it did. I struggle to believe that it went 7-0, but I'll keep an eye out for that list. I'd love to see it if it did actually happen. But yeah, I think that BA is sat in the same camp as Thunder Dragons right now, where you just can't beat mine. Like, you could have the most fantastic BA setup, but the deck has no inherent ways of dealing with Mystic Mine. Like, it doesn't have any spell or trap cards that you'd play that are archetype specific, so you'd have to be main decking removal. And I don't think that in a format where you're forced to be main decking removal, a deck that relies on like multiple creatures to properly set itself up is ever going to be successful. So I think that for so long as Mystic Mine is at 3, Burning Abyss just can't be a very competitive deck, which I guess is a little bit sad. I did pick up a Cherubini almost on release. I think I've now got 2 of them sat here, and neither of them being played, unfortunately. And I'd really like to. Like, I absolutely love to be able to play that deck. Like, it's done so much for me, and I wish that I could play it right now. But no, it definitely doesn't seem like a deck that I will be able to play until the end of the season, because it's not going to help me with pursuing the points race, which is absolutely what I'm trying to get through at the moment. With that in mind, I will now show the deck that I was playing for this weekend. For anyone that was watching last week, it's pretty similar to that one, but there's a few new things, so I will go through what I played and why I played it. So, for the main deck, it was still very small Orcust engine. I played the 2 Nightmares, the 1 Harp, 1 Skeleton. Ooh, let's get a little lower. Okay, there we go. 2 Nightmares, 1 Harp, 1 Skeleton, 1 Babel, and 1 Crescendo. I felt like, for the most part, that the Orcust monsters in the deck were kind of things that I didn't want to see. I almost considered playing only the 1 Nightmare, but obviously, even in 60, there's a chance that you'll get stuck with it, and if you can't do your Orcust combo just for drawing your 1 Nightmare, then you're going to be in a really bad place. So, 2 Nightmare, obviously a safety choice. I played the Babel because it's so important for the combo now, and chose to continue without playing Return just because I didn't want to open with it, and the deck is designed around being as much as possible just cards that I want to see in my opening hand to give me not only the best chance of going off and doing my combo, but also the ability to have lots of different things that let me go second and play through boards. With that in mind, I played a fairly small Phantom Knight engine, so the 1 Cloak, 2 Boots, and 2 Fog Blades, and a Shade Brigadine. I've seen some lists cutting the Brigadine, but I'm a really big fan of Time Thief Redoer, particularly in the games where you do get shut down with something like a Lancia. Being able to just use a Brigadine and a level 4 to summon the Redoer, it seems very strong to me. So if you can ever get to a level 4 and Rusty on board, just having that as is almost like a little advantage gaining engine, particularly against decks like Sky Strikers where you have a decent chance of getting a spell. If you can pick up more cards off that, then you really put yourself in a very strong position to come back from a game that you'd otherwise be absolutely out of. I played the 3 Engages and the 1 Drones. No Eagle Boosters this time. I didn't feel like it had performed well for me when I did play the 3 Boosters, so I just cut those out entirely. And the other best starter in the deck, 3 Connectors, Aqua Dolphin, and the Rotor. Like, this is definitely the safest place that you can be starting your combo from. Just, even if your opponent doesn't have a hand trap, having knowledge of what's in their hand is really powerful for knowing what to use your interactions for when you pass over to your opponent's turn. One of my losses this weekend was really unfortunately to playing Connector and revealing the infinite impermanence in my opponent's hand. Obviously I can't deal with that. I had to bait it out and then leave my opponent with a hand of 2 Salamandrake Gazelles and a Called by the Grave, which I thought I was going to be able to answer with the Redoer that I ended on my turn on, but my opponent drew an Ash Blossom off the top of the deck for their turn, so shut down the one piece of interaction that I was able to set up on that Redoer. Next up, I have the Trickstar engine, Corobane, Candina, and still played the Lilybell as well. Like the Trickstars have all been really very powerful for me. I think Light Stage is absolutely one of my favorite cards in the game right now, just because so many decks are actually playing back row to the point where if you have a set card on your opponent's side of the field, this is almost like opening with a Pot of Greed, because you have a piece of interaction for their set and a monster to hand, and if you don't need your normal summon for anything else, getting Candina just adds even more cards into the mix. So if you can resolve the effects of the Sage and the Candina for value, it just puts you so far ahead, and it's a great card for being able to go second into a resolve board with a set card. I played the 2 Terraformings. Extra copies of Light Stage is really good, and if you don't need the Light Stage to do your combo, you can use the Terraforming to search for the Babel at the end, which allows you to set Crescendo as well as an extra piece of interaction, always a bonus. I'm playing the same 10 Dangers as ever, 3 Nessies, 1 Chupacabra, 3 Tsuchinoko, and 3 Jackalope. The Chupacabra, as ever, is just there to help me summoning the Redoer, and everything is great for discarding off Nightmares. I played 3 copies of Instant Fusion for Thousand Eyes Restrict. I've seen some people playing Winder as well, but I feel like the Winder combo not only uses up an extra slot in my extra deck, but it also puts me in a position where I'm trading away quite a lot of the interactions that I would have for my opponent's turn just to try and sit on that one Winder. And if they have an out to it, then I've lost everything else that I was going to use to control that turn. And then onto the non-engine cards, which is 16 of them. No, sorry, 18 of them even. I have 3 Called by the Graves. Obviously, hand traps suck, so you want to have an out. 3 MST and 3 Cosmic Cyclone. This is a bit of a nod to just how powerful Mystic Mine is. Like, I'm playing 60 cards, so I need to play a lot of things that I could draw to try and out the Mystic Mine. Like, you usually get a few turns to try and find something, but you can't just rely on having 3 copies of a card to be able to get through it. So I felt much safer on 6, and yeah, I don't think that I definitely never lost a round to Mystic Mine. I think I might have dropped 1 game where I was stuck under the Goddess Skuld's Oracle. But if I don't get stuck on that right away, then there's a good chance that I'll see one of these. I'll be able to break the Mystic Mine and go off and win easily from there. And then 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Ghost Ogre, and 3 Effect Veiler. Mostly I'm playing these cards because I really struggle with Pendulum if I lose the die roll. And I've been losing a lot of die rolls to Pendulum lately. It seems that like most of the time I get pretty lucky on die rolls, unless it's Pendulum, in which case it's a guaranteed lose. And going second into that deck is absolutely awful. If you have a hand trap, you put yourself in a much stronger position. Ghost Ogre onto the Electromite, really, really just as potent as it ever was. It also doubles up as being a good way to hit the Servant of Endymion. But yeah, just having something to shut them down before they end on a board of 4 or more negates, because there's no way that you'll be able to play through that if you didn't have something to mitigate what they ended on. Vladis. Why bother playing 60 cards? It just makes your deck worse if the Mermaid gets negated. No, I don't actually think that's correct. I think that the main disadvantage to 60 is that you're less likely to see a Connector or a Called by the Grave, so it's more likely that your Mermaid does get negated. But I don't think it's any worse, if even as bad, when the Mermaid does get negated. The cards that you have to play for your combo, so all of the Orcust cards and all of the Phantom Knight cards, they just aren't cards that you want to draw. Like, if I will never open with an Orcust or a Phantom Knight, I'll be pretty happy, because I'll find as many of those as I'm able to use in my first turn just by the single activation of that Mermaid. So I want my hand to be full of hand traps, back row removals, dangers, trick stars, just like one starter card and as many non-engine cards as possible, really. Extenders are great, but like by playing 60, I minimize the proportion of my deck that is the pieces that are necessary for the engine, but I don't want to start with. And that, I feel, has given me a much better chance when I'm playing second, because when you're playing second, you absolutely need to be seeing the cards that aren't engine cards, because you need things that are able to work through all of your opponent's negations or interactions before you try and push for anything. But anyway, we will get on into some extra and side deck. We have Boral Sword Dragon, Nightmare Unicorn, and Rusty as my higher link monsters. I played 1 Phoenix, 3 Galateas, one of which I was borrowing. I only played 2 on the Saturday, and I really missed out on the third one in a couple of games. So I made the space by dropping Trisbaena so that I'd be able to play 3, and I found that quite a lot of games I was actually going through the full 3 Galateas. So Thanks to Chris Barron for lending me one of those for the Sunday event in Southampton. One Cerberus. Playing both of these is really important because I was playing the 2 copies of Mermaid to be able to summon off them. Just meant that if I was able to get to a point where I could stabilize and survive for a turn, then I would be able to make another push on the following turn. I still played the Space Insulator as a link to that would enable me to get into Rusty if I was shut down by a hand trap. 1 Kagari for the drones, 1 Ningirsu. I don't know if I'd play a second one of these, but I don't have a second, so I was just sticking with 1, and it seemed pretty fine to me. 1 Redoer and the 1000 Dice Restrict for the instant fusion. Restrict seemed really strong the whole weekend, just being able to always bait any sort of interaction before you need to go off. It clears Sky Striker links without triggering Ray. It just does everything very nicely. I think that's in a really great place at the moment. Aside from being forced to cut down on some of my tech slots in the extra deck in order to fit in the 3rd Galatea and the 2nd Mermaid, I was very happy with everything. There was never anything that I felt like I wished I was playing it in my extra deck. So in that regard, I think it was fairly well constructed. For the side deck, I played 3 Sphere Mode, mostly as a consideration for Pendulum. Like I say, I really struggle to beat that deck if I'm playing second, but if you see this, then it's almost a sure win at that point. 1 Jinzo as a card that I can search with the Orchestrated Crescendo. 2 DD Crows. I think that this is actually quite good against quite a lot of matchups, particularly Salamangreat. It stops them from getting to the Dweller, which is a card that you very much struggle to beat when you're playing second. 3 Hatrunades, both for Sky Striker and any of the Mystic Mine decks. 1 Mecha Modules multi-roll and 1 Black Garden. So the Black Garden, the multi-roll, and the Jinzo were all cards that I had seen from one of the deck profiles that we posted to the Kuribrohs channel are following up from Spanish Nationals. The idea being that even in 60 cards, I can side these 3 cards and have so many ways to find an out to the Mine Burn deck. So by putting in 1 Black Garden, I'm not just putting in that, I also have the 2 Terraformings. With multi-roll, I have the 3 Engages already in my deck, and with Jinzo, I have the Crescendo that I can search out on turn 1, just to give me a lot of ways to consistently find something. So that mitigates part of the issue of playing 60 cards, is that you want to see your side deck cards, but if you can find a way of seeing them without having to draw them, then it becomes even more effective. I played 1 Imperial Order just because it's such a good card in the decks, in the matchups where it's good, and 3 Red Reboot. A lot of the side deck here is really just respecting the power of back row in the format right now, and that's on top of effectively the 6 Space Typhoons in the main deck. I really just don't want to be losing games to set cards that I can't deal with. And those matchups have been very prevalent across the events that I've been to. So I do feel like it's worthwhile at the moment dedicating that much of your deck building to not losing to spell and trap cards. Has anyone else got any questions that they would like to ask about the deck? And I'm sure I can try my best to give you some answers on it. If not, I'm still struggling with Dan. I can't get him live to join me, unfortunately. He's messaged me saying that we will have an extra deck profile going up on the channel this evening to make up for the lack of a live stream. But yeah, now I'm just going to be going to any comments. If anyone wants to throw anything out, any questions, I will try and get you answers to those. Fladis, I'm sorry. It's just not going to work between us. Anyone else has any questions? Okay, Kian has asked, what made me choose MST over Twin Twister. I felt that Twin Twisters is actually significantly less impactful because a lot of the time it's going to get negated, and I don't want to be losing a card for free if it's just going to get negated. MST is really good for having a piece of interaction if you're going first to set it for your opponent's turn. If your opponent's doing things that will like play into back row removal, it tends to be that you only need one piece of back row removal to deal with what they're playing. And so yeah, the combination of not wanting to lose an extra card to negation and not wanting to waste a card if I only need one removal, I'd sooner just play more copies of cards that can be removal than to play cards that remove more cards on each individual activation. Let's see. Thoughts about Longirsu. I played Longirsu last weekend, and I think that it could see like effective use in a deck that uses more Orcust cards. But given that I was going with so minimal in the main deck, I only have 4 machines, and most of the time they're just being chucked straight back into play under the Dingirsu if it's a symbol, or returning what's left to the main deck with Galatea. There's generally not enough fuel there to actually effectively use Longirsu. So yeah, it just didn't come up enough, so it got cut very quickly. How was my Subway yesterday? Subway was great. Have you tried to build IB on the deck or see if it's viable and consistent for combos? So IB is a card that I think is really interesting, but the idea behind this deck was that I was putting in as many cards that would be effective when I'm playing second, or actually being able to like fight through interactions. The IB World Chalice, I felt that it was just forcing me to play more garnets in the deck, and the theory behind me playing 60 cards was that I was actually reducing the relative proportion of garnets in my deck. So it would be counterproductive to then try and build in that engine for going first and increasing the chances of seeing those garnets. Did I miss Pancratops? No, I did not miss Pancratops. Did I miss Lancia? No, I don't think I even played against any matchups where Lancia would have been effective. Did I miss Phantasme? No, I think there are too many matchups right now where Phantasme is ineffective, so it's not a card that I would want to main, and I don't think it's a sensible card to side deck really under any conditions, so I just don't think that it's worth deck space at the moment. Any changes over the weekend? I made some changes between Saturday and Sunday, but I think as it stands, there's nothing that I would change right now about the build that I played for the Sunday. I'm going to sit and look at other results from other events, see what's coming in, and maybe I'll make some more changes off the back of that. But as it stands, I'm very happy with the list that I played. Thoughts on maining Droll this format? I think that the format is too diverse for Droll and Lockbird. It's a card that I really like when you can be almost certain that the decks that you're playing against will want to search multiple times. But I don't think that that's the case right now. I mean, even just considering this deck, you can get almost everything that you want to do done, even if you're stuck under Droll and Lockbird. I don't think that it has any great impact on Salamangreat. Sky Striker, I guess it'll hurt a little bit, but they can still play through under Droll. It's not a deck that pushes in one turn, and if you stop that one push, then you win. So Droll isn't particularly effective against them unless you're playing a really hard OTK strategy. Decks like Mystic Mine, they really don't care that much. They can just save their draw cards for next turn. So yeah, I don't think that Droll is in a good place this format. I think that similarly to No Material, very powerful card, but needs to have the right format for it to do well, and now just isn't that time. And then we'll do this last question. What would the top 5 decks for this format be in my eyes? Okay, I definitely think that Orcust is a contender. I guess you could probably call Orcust 5 decks, but I'll give you like a full 5 decks. Orcust in anything is just such a strong engine, and it gives you a long game almost just by resolving the Orcust combo and getting to Dingirsu and the symbol that just loops itself every single turn. I think Salamangreat remains a very strong choice. Lots of people have been playing it really effectively, and it's still one of, if not the most played deck. I think as a third deck, I'd definitely go with Mystic Mine. I'm not sure if I think that Mystic Mine, the pure deck, would be in my top 5, but definitely the Sky Striker deck with the Mystic Mines, just being able to kind of have the best of both worlds with Mine as a floodgate for anyone that can't deal with it, and the power of the Sky Striker deck just from being and doing everything that it has done before. Like, the Striker is still definitely one of the top contenders, and adding Mine, I think, more than makes up for the loss of the Kagaris. It feels a bit less fair to play against, but if you have the out to the Mine, then you're almost certainly going to beat it. I think that True Draco is actually also a very well positioned deck to deal with the prevalence of Mystic Mine. Like, if you're playing Draco, you just don't care. Like, you can still summon all of your stuff, and the decks that are playing Mystic Mine get absolutely battered by just resolving the effects of your spell and trap cards in the grave to take out cards for free. And then my final choice for top 5 has got to be Pendulum. Like, there's a reason why it's been doing so well, and it is absolutely mad, the turn 1 boards that the deck can put out. The only slight disadvantage that Pendulum has is that it has quite a large disparity between how effective it is when it gets to go first or second. Interesting that at the moment there are quite a lot of decks that are choosing to go second, so you'll win significantly more than half of your die rolls if you're on a deck that wants to play first right now. So I think Pendulum is a very, very good choice. It reliably puts up a big field of negates, so yeah, most decks really struggle with that. Alec's been seeing some great success with it, and you'll be able to check out the profile because that should be online later this evening. With that, anyone that's still around, I'm very sorry that the stream has ended up in a different format. I'm absolutely missing Dan. I'm just trying to get something out by myself here. We will do our very best to have everything back to normal for next week. We'll be back on YouTube if available. But yeah, thank you for everyone that has come out, and I will see you at the next event or see you next week for another episode of TKB Live, hopefully with less technical issues, but who knows what will happen. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a good night, everyone. Bye.